Okay, here we are with Smackdown number 2. Tomorrow you will do your Smackdown on your own, the DIY, do your own Smackdown. And so since that's on your own, we're not going to do a lecture to go on with that. So that makes today the last lecture of the term. And it's not going to be very long either. You guys are ready to go. I think you're well prepared to do this. I've been very happy with the quality of work that I've seen overall from the students here. So commend yourselves. Great work. Um, I've really enjoyed teaching this term and having you interacting with me. Many of you did a call or chat with me about aspects of your research proposal, etc. And it has been great to connect with you. I hope I see you in the future in other classes here at SVU. So let's get started with today's Smackdown. I'm not going to go through page by page like I did on the other one. We're just going to briefly go through what the study covered, and I'm going to let you figure out the answers to this question, but I'll give you some context, and I don't think it should be very hard. And so the first thing we're looking at, of course, is the study design. Is it an association design, a frequency design, or a causal design? And so if you look in the title uses the words randomized controlled trial. So there is a large clue there, especially since the last thing we did also was randomized controlled trial. And so figure out what the study design is based on the information you have. If you remember, we have the title, then you have the abstract, which gives you a lot of information. And you have an introduction, methods. Now, actually, the really cool thing about this article that I'm having you analyze right here is that it's very similar to your research proposal. It's actually a proposal of research that they're going to do. So the article is a description of their study that will happen in the future. And so if you notice in the discussion, it says these are the things we're going to look at. It doesn't say this is what we found, because they haven't done the study yet at the time of this writing. And so I thought you might find that kind of fun, since you are also turning in a research proposal. So here's an example of a research proposal that has been published, so you can take a look at their study design and what they plan on doing. And so what is the author's hypothesis? They're looking at two different treatments. One of them is you get myofascial, what do they call it? Sorry. Myofascial trigger points. That's what it is. You're looking at myofascial MTRPs. So you're looking at myofascial trigger points versus wait list, nothing. So people are either on a wait list or they're getting actual therapy. Waitlist therapy is a fairly common way of having a control group when you're looking at an intervention. You have to kind of account for the fact that they're going to know that they're on the wait list as opposed to getting the therapy to some extent. And that it's a good way of looking at the effect of time. You know, if time heals all wounds, then it might heal your shoulder as well. And if it doesn't, then you'll appreciate getting the treatment. So that's part of what's looked at. So the IV would be what? If you're looking at two different treatments, the IV is what the researcher manipulates or decides which group gets what. And so then the DV, the dependent variable, is the outcome. And so they have this beautiful method section that is very thorough, and it tells you exactly what was going to happen. And so after you see the pretty detailed abstract, extremely detailed, actually a lot of abstracts they can't be that long. They're not allowed to be that long. And so it's nice detailed abstract, perfect background, just very succinct and pointed, and enough information, but not too much. And then it tells you all kinds of things in that method section. You have an examiner blinded randomized controlled trial. That's what it is. It tells you a lot about what the participants will look like, how they're going to measure them, It gives you this really cool graph about what they expect will happen in terms of the flow of the study and the patients, all about the intervention, and then some things that have to do with internal and external validity. And so, of course, they need a stop rule because you're not going to keep giving someone treatment when they're all done with the treatment. But this idea of controlling the intervention integrity, that is incredibly relevant to internal validity. If the intervention doesn't have integrity, then you don't know exactly what you're measuring. And so they're making sure that each participating physical therapist is doing the same thing, which means if your treatment has integrity, it's performed the same way each time. So you know exactly what you're measuring. Expectations, they're looking at bias. They want to make sure that bias doesn't get in the way. So they're examining the expectations. And they're looking at how might our people in the study, what might be a confounding factor here in terms of all the participants. And so they're showing you, these are some of the ways in which we protected some of the bias, some potential confounds. A lot of analysis is mentioned, and what I really want you to notice there is how they're being very specific about how they're doing it. So it makes it really easy to replicate. And they're being very specific because when they designed the study, they really, really thought through all of these things. They're giving you an example of what you'll see in terms of the outcomes in sample size, randomization, um, and their baseline characteristics. Of course, they're not able to report those because they don't have their participants yet and they haven't started the study, but they've already arranged their table so that they can just fill those numbers in, which really helps you so much when you look at creating a study. Their discussion, again, is more about internal and external validity, not very much about findings because they don't have any findings yet. And so I think this study is really kind of fun for you guys to look through and just be able to make sure that you can figure out what the study found, what the internal and external validity issues might be. See if you can identify a type 1 and a type 2 error. Of course, asking you to do the null hypothesis, you guys already know how to do that. That's not hard. So I think that you can answer these 7 questions pretty easily. And so what happens next is you're going to do your own Smackdown. That's tomorrow. You're going to turn in your final proposal, and that's this weekend. And then you're going to do the final Smackdown. It won't be much harder than today and tomorrow. I think you guys have it down. I think you'll be able to figure out the important things here in terms of getting this basic kind of introductory college level idea of how research methodology works. So again, enjoyed you so much. And please come by my office in the fall and say hello. And I wish you the best. Take care and talk to you later.